don't think you can be too mature for this game. So I think every year you learn and your maturity just grows 1% better every day or 1% every year. So I think right now for me is just understanding why am I here. And that's not questioning the coach. It's just like understanding my role. What can I do to impact and help the young guys, really. This team young. Got a lot of ball in us, so I'm ready to take some of this maturity level and pass it on to some of the guys now that's below me.
Hey, y'all. Of course, it's Matt Rogers on the Honorable Mention podcast. Today, we have OJ Spivey from the Philadelphia Tribune, which if you've listened to this podcast before, if you've seen him elsewhere, you know he's worked for Andscape in years and has been a great contributor to just talking about the sports and the culture of the cities. A sports and culture journalist through and through, covers different angles on things. It's not just purely a sports angle, although he is in the locker room and gets to have conversations with folks. I did plan OJ to go straight into the Birds because there's a whole lot to get into, and of course the Philadelphia Eagles. But right before we were about to come on here, the Pittsburgh Steelers trade for Justin Fields. The Bears will reportedly receive a 2025 sixth-round pick that will become a fourth-rounder if Fields plays in 51% of the snaps next season. But that does not seem to be in Pittsburgh's plans because they are talking about that Wilson's going to be the starter. Where do we even begin with this whole thing, OJ? Just go ahead.
It's so much to unpack from the Bears standpoint. The Steelers standpoint. Well, first things first, my initial reaction was the Steelers won both trades, both with the Eagles and both with the Bears by far.
Correct.
You know, and we'll get the Eagles angle in a second, but just by Pittsburgh, just fleecing Chicago for a fourth of the sixth. And then I was reading an ESPN article or piece on it stating that the Bears overplayed their hand. And then once the other shoes fell, I believe it was Sam Howell, and then who else got traded? Mac Jones to Jacksonville and everything. That kind of kapooed the quarterback trade market. So they were just kind of holding out for this, for this big take-in, for this big netting of
what am I going to do with a sixth-round pick though? Like, what am I going to do with that? Or a conditional fourth, so potentially a fourth. But like, what am I going to do with that? I might as well keep Justin Fields. Who knows who the guy is that they're going to get, if he's really going to be the guy, if he's really going to be ready, or if he gets hurt. I mean, if I'm trading for a sixth-round pick,
that doesn't even matter to Chicago. That lets us know that.
Get him out of town. Get him out of here.
Town. Whatever they told Justin Fields, they must have told him that, okay, we're going to move you. Come hell or high water, we're going to move you. But they did a poor job of having a poker face. I mean, the worst thing you want to do is say that your young quarterback who has all the talent in the world, that he's on a trade market going into the last year of his contract.
Right.
And, you have the number one pick. You don't let anybody on God's green earth know that you want to take Caleb Williams. You let nobody know. You let all the trade bait come to you. You don't dictate that you want Fields out of town. I mean, they should have did a great job.
They misplayed it through and through.
Justin Fields is our quarterback. He's our quarterback for the future. We have no intentions of trading for him.
Right.
Okay. Even if nobody believes that, that's what you say.
Right. Drives up the market.
Right, exactly. And from Pittsburgh's standpoint, they won. I mean, it's a no-win situation for them. Forget the fact that both guys can be free agents after next year, but they have Russell Wilson, who they're only paying $1 million. Denver's still paying the rest of his salary. So it's like the league. It's like the
league minimum. I think 1.2.
League exception, like with the NBA. Yeah, it's the NFL's version of the league exception.
Veterans minimum or whatever.
Right. So
yes.
And then you have Justin Fields, who's still on his rookie contract. And even if you pick up this is the best of both worlds. Whether Wilson does well or not, they don't have to pay him a dime beyond this year. And then you have Justin Fields in your back pocket to where even if you're going to pick up his 5th-year option, that's only $25 million. And that's half of what you're paying all the other young quarterbacks that are, of his caliber, so to speak, or along with his draft class. If you go back to Hurts and Herbert and Burrow, all those guys. So they had the best of both worlds. But from Chicago's standpoint, I like Caleb Williams, but for how this played out for them, and I don't even care what they do with the first pick and then their second pick, where both their first-round picks. Caleb Williams, at this point, he has to be the second coming of Patrick Mahomes.
Yes.
For them to just give away Justin Fields, let everybody know you're going all in for Caleb Williams. So you're not going to trade the first pick unless you have a hush-hush deal or a wink-wink deal with somebody else. I forget who has a second pick. Like you swap picks.
Commanders.
The Commanders, or for whatever reason. Yeah. So,
and you don't for the viewers, it's at the bottom of the screen, by the way.
Right. So you don't want the you don't want to have a Sixers Celtics type of deal to where you're swapping for Tatum and Fultz. But for how this played out with the Bears, Caleb Williams, he has to be the shit, man. He really does.
Absolutely. I totally agree with. I mean, and I think this is kind of part of what's going on in the league. The league, what you and I have talked about, it's a very cyclical. Sports are very cyclical. Right now, the conventional wisdom is it's becoming, obviously, in NFL GM rooms, they're deciding if we know a guy's not the guy, get him the hell out of town. We just gotta, he's gotta leave.
There's no patience. No patience with Fields, no patience with Pickett, no patience with Mac Jones, as we can see. I mean, I can see why they moved him out the door. Because you have you have a brand new regime. I mean, you can kind of see it with Jones and Hal, but the Fields thing is mind-boggling to me because
it is.
What happens in Chicago if Caleb Williams has a tough year or a short year? This also leads me to believe that he's going to start from day one. So suppose he can't get out of his way, or Eberflus can't get out of his way, and they end up firing Eberflus. So Caleb Williams has to start over again. The Bears will have to start over again with a brand new coaching regime if this doesn't work out.
Well, like Outcast said, you can plan a pretty picnic, but you can't predict the weather, Miss Jackson. And so,
not at all.
I mean, you can think that Caleb is going to start week 1, but do you know he's starting week 2? I mean, the Jets thought that Aaron Rodgers was going to start week 1. He did start week 1, like the first series. And then what happens if it? Okay, so Caleb is great. He's playing well. You decided through camp he's your guy. You still got Fields, and then you can get more of a haul than a 6th-round pick if you play this out a little better. I mean, why is there a fire sale on him? I mean, why is he got to get the hell out of town? The store's closing sale.
That gives us an indication of all we need to know, that they just had to dump him, and he probably should have been. They probably had an idea of dumping him earlier this week when free agency started. So again, it all backfired. Once the other quarterbacks got traded and everything, the value seemed to go down. They overplayed their hand.
The QB market. I mean, if for Fields to get, rewind back a year ago, if you tell any football fan that Fields is getting traded in a year from then for a 6th-round pick, they would laugh at you loudly. Right. It's absurd.
Yeah, it's utterly absurd. I mean, I'm scratching my head. I mean, at the very least, a 3rd-round pick, at the very least. But and then you have the Eagles standpoint, to where Pittsburgh fleeces the Eagles for a 3rd-round pick. And everybody always say, "Oh yeah, how he fleeces always fleeces the other guy and everything." Kenny Pickett worth a 3rd-round pick? Are you kidding me?
I think that is cushion because you don't want to pay a Mariota that $5 million. In my mind, for what I watch from Mariota, and I feel like I watch the team pretty closely, OJ, as you do. I know it very much. What we were seeing out there, and you know that I'm not just saying something on air I haven't said to you off air. Oh, no. But I think that they're about this. Basically, they're the same guys. The Spider-Man meme, and I'm paying Pickett 1.2, Mariota 5. I'm cool, fine. And then I'm not sure. I know Pickett could be worse than what we're looking at, but he also could be better, right? You get him in some of that zone read option.
We don't know either way.
Throwing to AJ Brown, throwing to Avonte and Dallas Goedert,
he back home by the Jersey Shore, man. He might hang out with Snooki and all them now.
Hey,
no, that's his whole.
We needed to talk about running quarterbacks out of town. You know, I was ready to run him out of town. I was ready for McKee to be the backup in camp last year. I haven't said this on air, but you know that's where I was at.
Well, this trade lets you know what they.
I thought Mariota was horrible.
Yeah, well, this trade lets you know what they think about McKee. Right now. So
yes,
he
could beat him out. I could see a world where he beats him out, though.
I doubt for what they paid for what they paid for Pickett. Tanner McKee's not going to beat him out, and I can't see another trade. I can't see a trade upon another trade unless somebody like, God forbid,
let Pickett cook in the preseason.
Let somebody, God forbid, tears their ACL, and another team comes calling like, what do you want for Pickett? You know what I mean? That's the only way that's going to happen. But it's going to be Hurts. It's going to be Hurts, Pickett, and then McKee, for sure.
Yeah, I bet. But I'm saying McKee could just come out there and just beat him, and just put him in such a such a whooping on him that everybody sees it.
Listen, if McKee beats out if McKee beats out Pickett, whether they want that to happen or not, I'll cash after you some breakfast. Your breakfast stipend.
Hey, McKee makes some throws. I mean, he makes
does,
some other
but
throws.
I'm telling you, it's not.
He makes some other throws too.
Nobody tries to justify capital more than Howie Roseman. So for that third round pick, Pickett is cemented as your backup for 2024.
So talk about capital. Eagles went out and splashed. Let's just get to it for the folks who are looking forward to this. Saquon, they went and got Saquon 3 years, $37.75 million, up to 46. I didn't see this number until I was prepping for this. Up to 47 if everything goes, the favorable way for him. Off the top, I mean, what are your thoughts when you saw that? What were your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, we know that, 47 and everything, that's like the absolute best case scenario. Who probably won't get to that. And then, maybe into, last year, the contract, reaching all the incentives and everything. Right. Money is always news. You always.
Howie's going to stretch you out to those void years later.
Right. So you always mention the highest number, you know what I mean? What it can be up, because money is always news, for better, for worse. So we just take it back to, the first open day tampering or legal tampering, however you want to call it. It appeared that the Eagles wanted to re-sign DeAndre Swift. However, he got a good deal from Chicago. He got apparently a better deal from Chicago.
$8 million annual value. I mean, that's pretty good.
Right. So it doesn't seem like the Eagles wanted to go that far with Swift. So he went off to Chicago. So essentially, Swift set the running back market. And then you saw Jacobs, and then you saw who else am I thinking of? Got a little bit of cash.
Henry.
Yeah.
Henry went to Baltimore.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So you saw that running back market, and it's as soon as Swift signed with Chicago, I said they got to go all in for Barkley. They got to pay for Barkley now, because That hasn't been their thing. This is unorthodox for them. I think they were kind of forced to pay Barkley his money because their plan A, or if we want to call it plan A, if they were really serious about re-signing Swift, they probably weren't. But they probably didn't anticipate what the running back market was going to be. But essentially, it's still a good move because Barkley is so versatile. He does a lot of things. He can run the football, as we know, and he can also catch the ball out of the backfield. So it worked out for them, but they almost essentially had to get Barkley because of how, from what we know, how the Swift negotiations went.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like I could justify it. I mean, he's about a third, at least a third better than I mean, if Saquon's basically getting about 12.5 a year, and you say Swift's getting $8 million annual a year, he is about a third better, like, a top end player, a 3-down player. Swift out here whiffing, and I think he played well at times, but in terms of the pass game, pass blocking, there's some deficiencies there, and that he wasn't as much of a weapon out of the backfield for some reason. For all the talk last year in the preseason, it never materialized.
Yeah, some of that was the coaching staff and failing to get the ball to him out of the backfield, which we saw a lot in training camp. We saw that a lot.
Right.
They threw the ball to Swift out of the backfield, all of their backs out of the backfield, but it didn't materialize for whatever reason when it came down to the regular season games, and they paid for it. I don't think it was necessarily Swift's fault, but it was what it was.
Dickerson got 4 years, $84 million. Everybody knew that was the worst kept secret in the world, that they were going to do that. Howie Roseman, this is what he does. He gets a guy and he pays him. He takes care of him. You think that these moves, being Barkley and Dickerson, kind of take the Eagles' run game to another level, or is there going to be probably some more difficulty because of Kelsey leaving?
Yeah, I do think it takes them to another level, not to a level where we'll see them run the ball that much more. I think they're still going to stay the course as far as how they run their offense, with Kellen Moore now as the offensive coordinator. But I just think they will be, when I say next level, they'll be more efficient with what we just talked about, passing the ball, getting it to Barkley out of the backfield, getting the ball to him in some space, little wrinkles in the offense, which we all presume that Kellen Moore is going to add to this team, and also going to be more efficient in pressure situations. We know third and short that you can hand the ball off to a Saquon Barkley, and he's going to run it up the gut, and he's going to do enough to keep the chains moving. As we saw last year, and again, you have to go back and look at the film and determine whether that was more Swift or more the coaches. They failed to get tough yards and to put games away. You know what I mean? So the close games down the stretch in which they lost, they were unable to convert on third downs. And some of those plays were short yardage where they weren't able to capitalize. But I think Barkley can make the difference in that aspect.
Absolutely. They also went and they swung for the fences and got Avonte Parker and Matt Hennessy. But I think those are sneaky good moves, but I see them more as depth players. I don't really see them as people who are going to have a major role. I don't see that Avonte Parker really will be trotted out there as the Eagles wide receiver 3. Right.
Well, you can never have enough depth on your offensive line.
Correct.
But I think picking up Hennessy was a good move. He's back home, so to speak, Temple guy. You saw how happy he was to sign with the Eagles. So he's now part of Stoughton University. So you know that Jeff Stoughton's going to coach him up and have him be ready to get plugged in case of an injury or or necessity, what have you. With Avonte Parker, I also think that's a depth move. They're going to see what else is on the market. That was a no risk thing. They'll probably bring another receiver or two in the camp and maybe have it more of a competition with Parker and whoever else that may be. I could see
Could
him
be
being.
Quez.
Nah, there's no way Quez is coming back. No way. No way Quez is coming back. You can forget that. Quez is in our rearview mirror now.
He's like Rager.
Yeah, just like Rager. I mean, it was just one of those, just one of those picks that didn't work out. And one thing about getting the third receiver, I don't think fans should overthink the position. You have Avonte Smith, you have AJ Brown, of course. We'll see how Goddard does. In this new offense as well. He should be a big factor if he stays healthy. But
that's a big.
You're not gonna get some big time wide receiver unless you hit in the draft or you get someone. My ideal, and it could have been a money thing also. My ideal third receiver that I wanted them to maybe go after was possibly Hunter Renfrow. I think he would have been perfect in this offense.
He's a first down machine.
Right, exactly. And that's essentially what you want your
Jason Avant.
Your wide receiver 3 is to help keep the chains moving. For some reason they're doubling AJ Brown or they have a shutdown corner on Avonte Smith for whatever reason. You need that third receiver to just say, hey, he's essentially the hot read between your tight end and your third wide receiver. They're essentially the hot reads.
Absolutely. We'll be right back to talk about the defensive moves after a quick commercial break.
Saquon is coming. And I told everybody, just like what they did in San Francisco, where, okay, Kittle and Ayuk and Debo, that's good enough for some. No, let's get Christian McCaffrey and turbocharge this thing. That's A.J. Brown. That's Dallas Goedert. That's Devontae Smith. With Jalen Hurts, arguably more talented, one would think, physically, maybe, than Brock Purdy. Just throwing that out there. I know last year sucked. Again, that said, here comes Saquon. And all it costs is $3.9 million on this year's cap. Okay.
All right, we're back. The Eagles went and got CJ Gardner-Johnson back. He went to the Lions, went to back-to-back NFC titles. From getting to be in the locker room with him, though, do you get the sense that CJ's brand of leadership was missed last season?
Not just his leadership, just his overall play. I mean, his leadership, his personalities, and antics, it's almost irrelevant. Because what we're looking at here, Matt, is the Eagles admitted to their mistake. It was a huge mistake to let him get out of the building. And you saw the PR machine, you saw reporters, playing along with it, saying that he was a cancer in the locker room, which we didn't see none of that shit in 2020.
No.
You know what I mean? So
it was the antics. It was the antics of the representation after the fact, but that all of that stuff was contrived.
Eagles deal with those type of agents all the fucking time.
Yes,
you know what I mean. They deal with those type of agents. I mean,
yes.
You have the hierarchy as far as personalities with your Drew Rosenhauses of the world, and then you have the quiet ones where just get a deal done. You have Drew Rosenhaus on one side, you have Nicole Lynn on the other side, and you have everybody else in between. It's all about relationships, man. Just blame that on their agent, and I'm sure that's not the first time they dealt with that agent. So that was all PR BS. And for all that to come out and in the media and everything, and a slander campaign that was just dirty, and that was just full of it. And
karma got to work.
Right. And we saw it on the field. We basically saw it on the field from day one. Reed Blankenship.
And Byard was a Band-Aid, but he just didn't have, he was not as fleet of foot. He was not a spark plug, a game
right.
playmaker.
They were trying to correct the mistake. By midseason, they were trying to correct a mistake. And that's all this is. They're correcting a mistake. CJ Gardner, I guarantee you, if Gardner Johnson was in there last year, they would have won the division. I don't know what would have happened in playoffs, but they would have won the division.
Because they're like 3 or 4 plays from winning like 13 games last season.
Yeah, there you go. The margin of error
with everything,
was
yes,
that small.
Yes,
was that small. Saquon Barkley even said it. They got 11 wins on a down year.
Yes.
One more win, 2 more wins would have got them the division and essentially the number 1 seed. We don't know what would have happened at that point, but when you make egregious mistakes like that, and again, when you look at the overall contract that they now gave CJ Gardner, it's essentially similar to what he might have been asking for the previous year. And he's young. It's not like he wasn't you was paying for a 30-year-old. If you're paying what you're paying Slay, what you're paying Bradberry.
Right.
The problem with the Eagles that people should not look over is the stability factor, whether that's with safety and whether that's with linebacker, which I know we'll speak about as well. You have to have some stability in those positions. I know you don't. I know they don't, rather. They
value that at this point.
They don't value
ownership.
Yeah, they don't value that position as much as other teams do. But, sometimes just for stability reasons, we saw how rocky, or what we perceive how rocky that locker room was. I mean,
like, would they even take a Fred Warner? Like, even if Fred Warner wanted to be an Eagle, be like, I'll take a pay cut. Would Howie even pay the deal?
Exactly. And, you saw, the perceived tension in the locker room. And it's just that, what do you call that? 6 degrees of separation, or, it was just those little margins can make a difference. CJ Gardner Johnson could have been that comic relief. He could have kept everything together, or just by making a play.
I mean, the 49ers game was a waxing, and it got out of control. But for the early portion of that game, it was on a knife's edge. And, a big play here or there can change the momentum. At a certain point, they got the doors. The Eagles got the doors blown off them because they snapped it somewhere in that second to third quarter period. They got their heart snatched. But early in that game, with the spark plug play here or there, which CJ Gardner Johnson was doing, it can change. It can change things. It's a small margin of error. I don't, the distance between that Eagles team and that 49ers was not that large, but that's what got put out there that Sunday.
And then you have, some media pundits, some media guys saying, oh yeah, well, CJ Gardner Johnson, reason why he, the Eagles didn't re-sign him was he was out of position. He missed tackles. And, I'm not saying that he's of this caliber. Lawrence Taylor made his career being out of position. He made a MVP season, a Hall of Fame career out of being out of position. He literally did not know where to go, so he just rushed the passer and changed the entire NFL because of it. He admitted that. That's on film. That's on camera.
And that comes from inside the building.
Yeah, unfortunately. Exactly. You need playmakers. That's what they lack. CJ Gardner Johnson's a playmaker. For better, for worse, you need a playmaker, because 9 out of 10 times they're going to make a play as opposed to making a mistake.
The Seahawks game, a play, they win that game. The Cardinals game, a play.
You couldn't tell me that he wasn't going to take a couple from Drew Lock, who's no longer with the franchise.
Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Who threw a 100-yard pick six to Sidney Brown.
The Arizona game is probably irrelevant if they win the Seattle game. So you couldn't tell me that he couldn't get 1 or 2 from Drew Lock if he was back there.
So they almost got swept by the NFC West last season. You realize that?
Yep.
They beat the Rams, I think 23-20. But other than that, they got swept.
That's it. 1
gentleman swept by the
the gentleman sweep. That's That's why they were a wild card.
So Bryce Huff got 3 years, $51 million. Josh Sweat got restructured deal to pay $10 million in guaranteed money. Apparently his previous deal did not give him any guaranteed money. Does that kind of signal to you that Reddick his days are numbered, or can 3 legitimately good pass rushers coexist?
This is the tricky part, Matt, because a couple of these things are a surprise to me. I knew they had Huff on their radar, but they gave him a good amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not necessarily a 3-down
Right.
player.
Right.
He's a straight edge rusher, not great against the run. And then they restructure Sweat. You do get it in a sense because he's still a young guy. And we had talked about this offline, how he didn't have a sack for 8 straight games, I believe.
It was brutal.
Right. But as I told you, I like to believe that he's a better player than what he showed. Number one, because of his age.
He almost has to be.
His talent and the disaster that defensive room was last year, especially when they made the change from the side to Matt Patricia. So I'm sure that couldn't help, because more and more things are coming out. Is this they were confused. They didn't know where to line up, as we saw some of that. And that was glaring in the Giants game, the last Giants game. They just didn't know where to line up, that was just unconscious.
It got denied, but it's one of those things that got denied that is still true. They implemented a new system. They went and tried to paper it over after the players kind of hinted at it that they got a new system. No, we got new names.
They tried to mask it and masquerade it and everything. It was just terrible. It was just a disaster. And Howie has to own up to that, because I know between he or Lurie or whatever, they stepped in, obviously. Apparently Desai wasn't their guy, and he kind of went rogue on them on what they like to do. But again, that's your hire. You hire both Desai and you hire both Patricia, and both were.
Desai did a good job.
He was decent. He was a first year coordinator with your franchise. I mean, he was a coordinator in Chicago for 1 year, but you have to, and he was a Fangio disciple.
So Desai goes 10. They were 10-1. They lose. They got the doors blown off of them by the Niners in Philly. They go to Dallas, get the doors blown off of them. He gets canned off a 2-game lose.
It's a panic move.
Yes.
It's
after a couple of masterpieces throughout that season.
Yeah.
Earlier portion of
you also
season.
had to know the 49ers were going to come. We're going to come with it. They were on a vicious revenge trip.
Yes.
And Eagles never won in Dallas. They never won in Dallas. I don't think they won in Dallas since 2017, maybe. Something like that. But
you might be right, yeah.
Yeah, so they haven't won in Dallas in 2017. So both of those games were going to be tough. I mean, were they embarrassing? Yes, but you don't panic. You don't panic in the middle of the season. Losing teams panic. Carolina panic, as they should with Frank Wright. Those type of things should happen. You got to let your first guy play it out, especially when you still have a winning record.
They were 10-3.
Right, exactly. And to finish your question as far as Reddick is concerned, this is a tricky thing now, because are they really trying to trade him? Then you hear some reports that they're trying to work it out, but then they bring in Huff, they restructure Sweat. So it does lead us to believe that they still may want to trade Reddick, because he's going into the final year of his contract. But then again, the Eagles like to be deep on their defensive line. So they're going to have 3 essentially great pass rushers. We'll see how it plays out, but they got to do something with Reddick's contract before the year is out, because to kind of let him walk or just let him go into the last year of his contract without trading him, he may be unhappy as well. I don't know how this is going to play out. Maybe they might try to move him on draft day, but they might be overplaying their hand. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, if this ends with the Eagles only getting like a 3rd round pick because they, like you said, overplay their hand, then again, you don't have to trade guys. That's why you keep relationships going well, so that if the guy has to come back, it's not.
Well, Slay came back last year.
Right.
Who was that? Bradberry came back. We know the end result of that. And then kind of what they did with Fletcher Cox, they cut him and brought him back, who's now retired. But I hope that they can work something out, because you do never have enough pass rushers, but I don't know how the money is going to look, even though they're still in great shape cap wise.
The Eagles also got Devin White, 1 year, $7.5 million, invested in the linebacker position. Got Zach Bond from the New Orleans Saints, 1 year, $1.2 million. Do you think the Bond is the backup plan in case Nakobe Dean has an unsatisfactory season again, or is he more just going? Is he just a special teams type player?
Yeah, more so probably a depth guy, probably special teams guy. You can kind of tell as far as the contract is concerned. As far as White is concerned, he's going to look. They're going to look to him as being that playmaker at the linebacker position. And I know he has his flaws and all. He got benched in Tampa last year and everything for whatever reason, but he has to be that playmaking linebacker. And then with Nakobe Dean, you just hope that he's healthy. I'm higher on Dean than most people are, because I think he's not a playmaker. Doesn't look like he's going to be a playmaking linebacker going forward. We'll see. But I think he's solid. I think he's solid just as far as leadership is concerned, being a quarterback of that defense. Even though, again, they didn't look crisp or great. Well, more so it was the offense. They didn't look great before he got hurt, but they were solid. They were solid defensively. I don't think we had as many concerns as we did down the line after he got injured. And you look at Devin White again, he's a major upgrade. For his flaws, he's a major upgrade from what we've seen with Cunningham and Morrow. And
people were talking. There's been so much. I mean, I think Zach Cunningham was our best linebacker last season, the Eagles' best linebacker last season. But there's been a lot of, I feel like, inflation of what Zach Cunningham was. People were acting like he was like an all-pro or something.
Oh no, absolutely not. I mean, he overachieved. In some weeks and everything, but and going back to White's contract, I probably would have liked to see a multi-year deal with White, because again, I'm all for stability. Because even if he does well, he does bad. We're going to be back in the same boat next year talking about, okay, who's going to be that playmaking linebacker? Because if he plays well, he's probably going to get more money somewhere else. Right.
You're not going to be cheaper if he plays well, if it goes well.
Or if it goes bad, you're going to have to re-sign another linebacker anyway. So I would have liked to seen at least a 2 or 3 year deal with White, but we'll see. And he's still young. Again, you still have a young guy. So they did get a lot younger. You still have Sweat. You have White now. I think Huff is young. So they did get a lot younger on defense. So that's a positive. And then you look, the smoking gun, so to speak, is Isaiah Rodgers. So how are they going to incorporate him? Is he the eventual replacement?
He's talking about he's an outside. He's a slot corner.
Yeah. So that might help.
He's a slot corner.
And let's say if they keep Bradberry, having a solid
move him to safety.
He's not gonna be able to play safety. Nah, don't do that. That would be even worse. But let's just say best case scenario, man. You have Rodgers in a slot and he plays well. your slot corner may help your outside. You never know. I don't necessarily think that unless they have some type of master plan going into draft day or picking up somebody come June 1st or something, I don't think it's a slam dunk that Bradberry's out of here, because I don't think they have, judging from what they did in free agency, and they don't even draft corners high. So what's their plan? If they
That's why I'm saying get Bradberry in the weight room, let him roam back there. So he can use CJ more often, play 3 safeties with Bradberry back there free or something.
What you gonna do on the corner then?
You put Rodgers, Maddox, Slay. You might have to play Maddox outside.
They bring
not Maddox outside. I think they should. I think they're playing the long game here, and they're gonna bring him back at a lower number.
Yeah, maybe so. But I just don't think at this point that I'll just say this to fans: don't be surprised if Bradberry is back.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's good advice. But is that the right call?
It's not necessarily the right call. But I was just say, don't be surprised.
It's the only call. It might be the only call.
And he's a good dude, man. He's really good dude. He doesn't say much. He doesn't rock the boot and everything. He's forthcoming. He's contrite. He messes up. He doesn't run away from it. He doesn't run away from the media. Even though I think in some cases, depending on who's putting the microphone in your face, you shouldn't run. But I mean, he's always been contrite when it comes to owning up to his mistakes. Like I said, he's a good dude. His teammates like him and everything. He's just lost a step. So
he's in the right. That's the frustrating thing. You know, I have thoughts. I've shared them with you in live time. I mean, he's right where he needs to be a lot of times.
Real time. While I was in the press box, we had a good old time with that. I would see my phone. My phone is right there, man, with my iPad, and I got the stats up and everything, and I'm watching the game, and I see here you come, Bradberry again, man. He's awful.
Well, what is he doing, folks? I called it early though. I called it early, like week 1, week 2. I'm like, the drop off is coming.
And I was trying to get
he's playing fine.
I was trying to get you to stay the course and everything, but you were right. You called it. You called it.
Oh Lord!
I think you saw it before most people, actually, Matt. So kudos to you.
I mean, I'm not happy to. I mean, people like to be right. Sure, that's cool. Well, I wish I was wrong. I wish I was like kind of prisoner of the moment.
I believe you. I believe you. Because nobody really wants to be wrong, but I believe you.
Well, we would have had better corner play, and we would have been playing long. The Eagles would have been playing longer. Goodness, I mean, he's in the right spots. He's just the loss of a step, and then other guys know that you've lost a step, so they're gonna just motion the guy over and just
the CJ factor, man. He might make them all look better. CJ does cover a lot of ground. He does cover a lot of ground too. So he does.
Very
instinctive.
He is, but they also need to make sure that they have some depth there at that position. You can't lean too much and expect him to save the day also, because even when in the good season with the Eagles, he missed a few games.
You still have Ricks. You still have Ringo, who they're trying to groom.
I like Ringo.
Yeah, so you still have those guys on the back burner too. So
Blankenship. Blankenship is. I don't know if he's a star, but
I mean, you have to wonder at this point if they're gonna keep him as a starter. They may not have a choice. But again, when you have a playmaker like CJ Gardner-Johnson, and I'm not trying to value him as if he's some all-pro.
He's a playmaker.
But he's a playmaker. And again, when you have those playmakers, you know, they cover up a lot of they cover up a lot of deficiencies, man.
Yes, they do.
They really do.
So the Eagles have a bounty of picks here. They have 8 picks. They've got the 22nd overall, 50th overall, 53rd overall, 120, 161, 171, 172, and 210. What would you like to see? We probably know how he's going to do, or is likely to do. But what would
I like to
you
see
think?
them do?
What would you like to see them do?
Jeez, I would like to get for them to get a stud defensive back.
Yes, I agree with that.
And I know they're not going to do it, but I like to get for them to get a stud defensive back, whether that be a corner or safety, best player available, or basically just go best player available, whoever that may be. Best player available, whether it's somebody on line. But again, my preference would be in the secondary. But I think, well, I want to say judge on their moves, because that goes back to what they're going to do, what we presume that they're always going to do, and that's going to be in the trenches, right? So, but I would love for them to just take the best player available, just, you know, looking at their board and just seeing that. But judging by their free agency moves, I think they're going to go offensive lineman. With the departure of Kelsey, we'll see what going back to Dickerson. You know, I'm hearing more and more not to rule out him being the center, because the ideal thing would be you plug Cam Jurgens in there. Both these guys have played center in college, and even Dickerson did play some center during this year, and you know, some mop-up duty. So you can't rule that out, but you know, they're always going to try it. Right, you're always going to try. They're always going to try to solidify the trenches, whether that's offensively or defensively, and especially when you look at the defense now. If they go defensive line, especially in the interior, that'll give you a little more insight of what they think about Davis and Carter. Well, I know they're extremely high on Carter because everybody and their grandmother believed that Carter is going to be a stud, and he was,
because he is
a certain point, right? Yes. The question mark just may be Davis, but I do think that Davis will come around. He's had made plays here and there, but it's all up to them Georgia guys at this point. And then you talk about where does Nolan Smith factor into all of this? Because that's another big thing too. If they keep Reddick, then what is the role for Nolan Smith? He's a first.
I know what the role for Nolan Smith is covering backs like Saquon Barkley on wheel routes.
Yeah, he's out of position. He's out of position because I mean, Nolan Smith looked like he's again just an edge rusher. He looked like he could be an edge rusher or perhaps a run stopper. But given his size, this is kind of far out here. I'm kind of thinking, can he be a converted linebacker?
Yeah, so maybe his role is to cover the backs. I mean, Saquon in week 18 just completely just fried it.
But again, we're talking about we're talking about a defense that just imploded. So it seemed like everybody looked bad at that point.
True.
Everybody, including Jalen Carter. Everybody seemed to look bad at that point. So I don't know how. Honestly, man, I don't know how much.
Don't want to put too much stock in that. Okay.
Yeah, can we put too much stock? And they brought along Nolan Smith slowly, and I think they put him out there out of necessity too. And I
mean, when you got Josh Sweat not getting a sack in 8 games, that used to be half an NFL season.
Yeah,
your second best pass rusher doesn't get you a sack in half a season.
And it came out after week 17 that the players didn't even know how long they were going to play. They had no idea how long they were going to be out.
Well, you could read that. You could hear that in the press conference when y'all were in there. Of course, and Slay is all week talking about he wants to play, and then he doesn't play. AJ doesn't play. People talking about. I mean, AJ a different discussion, but Slay in week 18 was just like that. I mean, and then you get out there and you get the doors blown off of you, so you get Jay. I mean, it was just a mess.
Yeah, so we have to kind of diagnose that and just kind of keep it as an asterisk,
Okay.
of how we're evaluating this team, especially defensively. So
that was a 7-game 6-game sample size,
right?
6-7 game sample size,
which was mostly a disaster on defense. The offense had its deficiencies. It was inadequate at times, but when you have turmoil on one side, it puts that much more pressure on the offense.
Yeah, it does.
To not make a mistake,
and it gets you pressing sometimes too.
Exactly. The defense is struggling. We got to score here. We got to get a home run here. We got to, we got to go for it. We got to score 35. We got to score 40. Those type of things. We really don't have a grasp of what was really going through their mind, as far as how they were essentially trying to get out of this funk, man. So when you look at a Nolan Smith, when you look at a Jordan Davis, even with the reports of him being out of shape and everything, he ain't necessarily look out of shape to me when I interviewed him. Those are big guys. Maybe he didn't make weight or what have you. I don't know what type of preface the Eagles really put on that. We never really know. But it's hard to get a fair look at Nolan Smith, Jordan Davis, and even the injured Nakobe Dean with all that went down, because you really have incompletes on their report cards.
So Jalen Hurts had 15 rushing touchdowns last season with the addition of Saquon Barkley. Are you going over, under, push?
That's a good one. That's a good one. I'm going to say
probably less push, but more efficiency.
No, for now, I'll say a push.
Okay.
Because I don't think they're going to get away from the tush push.
And
I think it may even be more effective, because when you have Barkley out there,
Saquon's strong self pushing people.
He's strong too, but are they going to give it to Barkley, or are they going to keep it to Hurts?
Oh, like that play that they ran in the Washington game where they had the jet sweep kind of
the DeAndre Swift. What is going to be Kellen Moore's what is going to be his wrinkle?
His flair. Yeah, because there's so much stuff that we heard about them running. I mean,
yeah,
we know, you and I, we know people, and so we heard about things that were happening in practice related to that.
Right.
And we saw like one play in the playoff game, the Avonte Smith catch.
So what kind of tricks are they going to add as far as Kellen Moore comes in? But they're going to keep the tush push, because it's not going to be outlawed, anything like that. It's too much of a weapon. But how can they take it to the next level when teams feel like they're going to be ready for it?
So push, because the tush push will stay, and okay, but you don't see some of those like 3rd and 4 from the 5 on the goal line, not like the Eagles in that situation. 3rd and 4, or
that's
3rd and goal.
That's going to Saquon, but
because a lot of times they'll tush push it twice, or
in some aspects they did, but if they're like if they're inside the 2, the tush push is coming. But they're at the 4-yard line, the 5-yard line, even the 3. That's going to Saquon, because that's going to be money. With this offensive line,
Saquon
it's gonna be money.
Saquon rushing touchdowns over under push Jalen Hurts' total from last season.
Again, I gotta see how the offense is gonna look. I'm
gonna go under initially.
Yeah, I would say slightly under. I'll give
under.
Saquon around 12 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I think that his efficiency in yards are going to be through the roof. I think there still will be a role for Kenny Gainwell in this offense, and I think that they're looking
not too much though. Not too much. I would like to see another running back in here. I would like to see an upgrade in Kenny Gainwell.
Yes,
he's okay.
But this team they like him though. They just keep trying to get the value
here. But I would love to see them upgrade in that,
in that fifth round. You know, with one of those Eagles later picks, the fourth round, fifth round.
Pick a Kenny Gainwell, but better.
Yes. I mean, I share my thoughts with you. You know, I'm not like dying to see a lot of Gainwell. You know, but they are.
Yeah, he does. Nice guy and everything, but he doesn't move the needle for me.
He doesn't hit the hole. He's a dancer. I mean,
and he doesn't do enough catch the ball out of the backfield either. So,
despite his skills in that respect,
yeah.
I mean, if you charted it up, I mean, it's absolutely.
He was a decent pick. He was efficient
fourth round pick out of Memphis
for what they did, especially like when they got to the NFC Championship game against San Francisco. I mean, he looked like who was that? He looked like who do I want to say?
Corey Clement. For the Super Bowl season.
That actual game against San Francisco, he kind of looked like Joe Mixon, the way the offensive line was moving Fred Warner and all them around. That's who he kind of looked like that day, but that was it.
Well, that offensive line that day, I mean, the way that they were moving those guys, the way they whooped on the 49ers that day.
They could have moved an ocean full of icebergs that day.
I mean, you have Miles Sanders, running in untouched 20-yard touchdown in one direction to end the second quarter. Then you go the other direction, untouched again, running into the end zone, blowing kisses.
And then you had Gainwell in between getting those other tough yards. So yeah, that was a monumental day. I mean, that was the idea how you wanted to run the football, because San Francisco definitely tried to take away their passing game. So and they ran that to perfection. But I still would like to just see an upgrade for a backup running back.
As would I. We'll see. They already did pay a pretty penny for Saquon, but they will need. I mean, I think his injury history is tied up in that Saquon's former team wasn't very good.
I want to make it clear on that, Matt. I'm glad you brought that up, because it's a bit of a myth when we talk about Saquon's injuries, because over the last 2 years, he only missed 4 games. He's played 34 games his last 2 seasons. And if you go back to 3 seasons, he's missed a total of 7 games. So everybody thinks back to when he only played 2 games, and I think he tore his knee. Everybody thinks back to that year. That was 4 years ago.
And he's played very well since then. I mean, I think he had a 1,300-yard rushing season. He's always over 1,000 total scrimmage yards on a bet. Folks, it's a bad football team.
Right. A bad football team. And then you have the death turf up there.
Yes.
So,
yes.
He doesn't have to play on that anymore. He's playing at least 9 games on grass next year.
Yes.
So
he'll only have to go to MetLife, I believe, one time.
Yep. So it's no Jets next year.
Because they don't play Jets. Yeah, correct.
Right. So you're back on that MetLife turf once. You're in Dallas, once. at least. And there, I've never heard any complaints about Dallas's turf. So yeah. So I mean, he's refreshing. He's on the All-Star team now. So I Barkley getting injured is the least of my worries. I don't worry about him getting injured more than any other player on the team.
I mean, and guys, it's different. People are able to tee off on you when you are the only threat. I mean, Sterling Shepard is no Devontae.
And he was the only threat for the last 3 seasons or so. He was the only threat.
I mean, Darren Waller, fine. He's good, but when he's on the field, he was barely on the field.
And he didn't have a quarterback.
I mean, he made Daniel Jones in that RPO game 2 seasons ago look really good.
I mean, he, as good as he was, they still overpaid for him.
No, it was a dumb move. That's what I'm saying. Saquon got that man paid, and they didn't pay.
He did.
I'm so glad. It was just it's the gift that keeps on giving, and he's still their quarterback, right?
Yeah, for now he is. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Matt. Daniel Jones should tithe to Saquon Barkley.
Because Daniel Jones is getting in one season the whole total of what Saquon's going to get for all of his
for the duration of his current contract. Exactly. Listen, man, it pays to be a quarterback. Pays to be a backup quarterback. Apparently, so.
Oh man,
you won't get paid.
OJ,
it's market value, man.
What should people look out for in the coming days from you?
We're gonna try to put this whole thing together, this whole free agency thing together. Given that something else doesn't come down this weekend. Also, we're winding down the Sixers season. You have a little more than a month to go. Are you going to hang on? Are you going to stay out of the play-in? All those things. So we're going to tackle Eagles, Sixers, and then eventually we're going to get into the Phillies and see what their season looks like. And I guess another World Series or bust season. So all that's coming up.
Look, I can't wait to bring you back on to talk about all that. We'll keep this all birds, but definitely have to bring you back to talk about the Phillies and the Sixers, who will not be out of the play-in. Just don't do that to yourself. So don't expect to take that time off just to watch other teams. So your team's gonna be playing. If you like the Sixers, they're gonna be playing. It's all good.
All righty.
Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you so much for listening. See y'all.
Pick your poison. You can collapse down and take me away, and you got Jalen. And if you want to stick with Jalen, then you got me running against behind a great offensive line. So I look forward to all that, and especially not just Jalen and offensive line, but all the talent around it too. Whether it's running the ball in between the tackles, outside the tackles, catching the ball, pass blocking, all those things that really make you every down back is something I want to continue to get better at, and I'm going to.